Hey everyone! Welcome back to Story Hive. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an update. Let's jump into today's story. I was accused of seducing my sister's ex-husband. I endured her bizarre trust test with her new husband and was ambushed at a family dinner. My sister recently got married. It's been about 3 to 4 months. I didn't really see much of them after the wedding honeymoon and then back to work, but once a month our family all gets together and my parents host a huge feast. Since this took place a week ago, it was for the month of August. During this dinner my brother was being extremely weird towards me. He was complimenting my body, ignoring my sister, and just straight up acting so strange. It was completely unexpected for several reasons, one being his wife was sitting right next to me, too. He has only been married a few months. I felt really uncomfortable, and I'm sure it transpired to the rest of the room because WTF. Except it was weird because nobody was pointing anything out. I was extremely confused and just wanted to leave. I left early, but when I got home I just felt so icky I don't even know how to describe it. I decided to message my sister and let her know his behavior made me uncomfortable. I told her that it was also concerning he felt comfortable enough to say these things in front of my parents and brother. I explained that if she didn't feel comfortable being in the middle, I wouldn't mind explaining this to him myself. His behavior was so unnerving that I faced him my boyfriend, who was away for work in the US. I told him it was weird and how suddenly my brother's behavior towards me went from that of siblings to this horribly uncomfortable situation. He was pissed, rightfully so. My sister didn't respond to my texts until the next day. She asked to meet up, so I did. I was expecting her to be upset and to have him apologize for what he said. Instead, she admitted it was all a test and I passed. I was confused, to say the least. What did she mean by a test? I asked, like, what's going on? Turns out she had her husband do those things on purpose because she wanted to see how I would react if he had said those things to me and meant them. My reaction and choice to message her afterward told her I could be trusted around him. I was offended, to say the least. Why would she think I couldn't be trusted? Well, let me tell you the not very valid reason for this lack of trust. My sister has been married before. She was 27, and the divorce was about 10 months into marriage. Her ex was a psycho, to say the least. He had known me longer than he did my sister. I was the one who introduced them. They got along well and eventually started dating. It looked like the healthiest and most romantic relationship on the planet, except when they got married. During their marriage, I was staying with them because it was a closer commute to work. They had extra bedrooms and I would pay rent and cook and clean for myself. My underwear, bras, and panties would often go missing. It started off small. I just assumed it got mixed up in my sister's laundry and would turn up eventually, but it was happening more frequently to the point I was buying underwear almost weekly. I kept pressuring my sister to admit she was stealing my underwear, and she adamantly said it wasn't her. I decided to just ignore it and go about my day. Something I hadn't even considered an option was the real reason my former brother-in-law was stealing my underwear. I don't know, nor did I want to know what he was doing with it when I found out, but I was so disgusted. Someone I thought was my friend was actually just a perv. He admitted he had never really loved my sister and was just using her to get to me. I was just so creeped out, and I pressed charges against him for his sickening behavior. I was able to get a restraining order, and my sister divorced him almost instantly after finding out. She used something traumatic that happened to me and flipped it to make it seem like I'm the one who was untrustworthy. She claimed I must have strung him along for him to think like that, and this test was just to prove I wasn't doing it again. Safe to say I was extremely hurt and angry by her response. I told her to never speak or contact me again if that's what she really thought of me. My family found out, and for the most part, they agree her behavior is crazy, but my mother stood by her actions and said my sister was just trying to protect herself. I told her if she had just been honest with me from the start, I wouldn't have been as bothered. There's a right way to approach things and a wrong way. This isn't just wrong, it's also crazy. Why is she so adamant it's my life goal to hurt her? I didn't know that her ex was going to turn out like that, so why am I being punished? She claimed I should have had some indication he liked me, but he really made it seem like he was head over heels for my sister. How am I supposed to know what's going on in someone else's mind? Anyway, the family dinner was earlier this month as it was the most compatible date for everyone's schedules. Yesterday, I told my parents to expect me not to show up if my sister and brother-in-law were going. It wasn't even because I refused to ever speak to her again. I had just said that because the situation was so fresh. I told my mother I would apologize when I had cooled down a little. It was just difficult to face them when they made me feel like a horrible person for a situation that was out of my control. My mother assured me my sister wouldn't attend, so I agreed to come. When I arrived, they were both there. It felt like an ambush, and it sort of was. My sister demanded I apologize for my reaction because it was my own fault that it happened in the first place. I can't lie, I snapped. I told her she should remove my number and the title of being my sister, if she really felt that way. I just need advice because therapy isn't scheduled for another 2 weeks, and I feel like I just dreamt of a soap opera storyline. I feel kind of bad because I do understand my sister had her trust broken completely by her ex, but I feel like that distress shouldn't be aimed at me, but at the person who actually caused it. I was the one who introduced her to the guy in the first place, so I feel guilty for that already. But I'm failing to see how her schemes to manipulate me into thinking she's being wronged by a husband once again are just far too extreme. One, I want to apologize to her for one reason ever introducing that man to her. Two, I really need her to see that I wasn't trying anything when her ex was stealing my underwear. I was just as in the dark as she was. How do I go about doing the above? Because I want to put this behind me and move on. I was just about healing from her former marriage, and now this one is also putting me in a very uncomfortable position with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my own mother. Any advice on how to tackle apologizing, getting my sister's trust back, and showing her I truly just want the best for her? P.S. Apologies for spelling, slang, and grammar mistakes. It's 2 a.m. and I usually sleep around 10 p.m. It's possible that parts of this won't make sense, so I'm more than happy to try and make things easier to understand in the comments. I'm just so tired that my brain is working at 10 right now. Update 1, I lost a sister and a mother in 2 days. It's heartbreaking more than anything. I had a meetup with everyone. My boyfriend came with me for support during the conversation. Honestly, it was hard to look at any of them for the way they treated me. I'm so thankful to everyone for opening my eyes to the crazy behavior exhibited in the first part of the story. In front of everyone, my mother admitted to knowing about the plans from the start. My sister confided in her, and she agreed it was a good idea. She supported her son-in-law openly harassing her daughter. I'm in complete shock, and it just hurts so much knowing she would condone this, considering she knew how much I was affected by the first husband. She knew I was having a difficult time in therapy. It took me a long time to trust people again after that, and I feel like once again my trust has been broken. I don't know how I'm ever going to trust anyone again. I'm really thankful my boyfriend was there to comfort me because it was so hard keeping my composure around them. My sister was not budging at all. She kept maintaining she was in the right. She said the only reason I wouldn't apologize is that deep down I knew what her ex was like. She said I just liked getting attention from him knowing he was married to my sister. She also claimed I overreacted. I told her she shouldn't expect any calls, texts, or just not to be contacted by me until I received the apology I deserve from both her and my brother-in-law. Speaking of him, he was pretty silent throughout the whole thing, probably because my father threatened his life if he spoke badly about me. He did say that the only reason he did it was to placate my sister because she kept accusing him of ogling me, but still no apology from him. My mother, this one broke my heart the most. She told me I was over-exaggerating and that I should be happy to have passed my sister's test. She actually said the words, "We can all move on now." I was in complete disbelief. How could she think things would just go back to normal after this? I asked her why she was supporting such delusional behavior, and she replied that it was because she loved my sister and wanted her to be happy. I needed her to see that her actions were harmful and unjustifiable. I asked her if she loved me as much as my sister. She hesitated before saying yes, but it felt insincere. I told her I wanted an apology for her complicity in my sister's schemes, but she refused. So I set the same conditions for her as I did for my sister and Bill. Until I received an apology, I wouldn't speak to any of them. As a result, I decided to go low contact with my brother and dad too, since they both lived with my mother. I figured I could hang out with them outside of that environment, but I wasn't sure how that would work out. I had also considered spending time with my boyfriend's family during holidays, as they might become my new support system. I hadn't met my boyfriend's family yet because they lived in the US, but after everything that had happened, I decided to take a 2-week paid holiday at the end of the month to visit them. I hoped it would go well because they seemed so welcoming and supportive. My therapy session was moved up to tomorrow due to the emotional turmoil I was experiencing. I felt grateful to have my boyfriend by my side through all of this, as he provided the comfort I desperately needed. Despite everything, I tried to focus on healing and moving forward. I knew I had to put the past behind me, especially since I had started to feel lighter and happier. The situation with my sister and her husband was painful, but I was determined to find a way to rebuild my life on my own terms. During that time, I also reflected on the importance of setting boundaries. I realized that while I wanted to support my sister, I couldn't sacrifice my own well-being for her insecurities. The emotional weight of the situation was heavy, but I began to see it as an opportunity to redefine my relationships. When I finally visited my boyfriend's family, it felt refreshing. They welcomed me with open arms, and I experienced a warmth I hadn't felt in a long time. Being around them helped me realize that family isn't just about blood, it's about support and love. As my therapy session approached, I felt a mix of anxiety and hope. I knew I needed to confront my feelings and gain clarity on how to navigate my fractured relationships. I wanted to be able to express my hurt without being labeled as the villain in this story. Ultimately, I hoped to find peace, not just for myself, but for my sister as well. I wished her the best, but I needed to focus on my healing journey. It was time to embrace a future filled with healthier connections, starting with my newfound family and a renewed sense of self. As my therapy session finally arrived, I felt a wave of relief. I shared everything: the betrayal, the confusion, and the heartbreak. My therapist helped me untangle my emotions and encouraged me to prioritize my own mental health. It was a turning point, and I started to understand that I didn't have to carry the weight of my family's dysfunction. After returning from my trip, I felt lighter. I realized that while I couldn't change my sister or mother, I could choose how I responded to their actions. I decided to embrace the love and support from my boyfriend's family, who treated me with kindness and respect. Eventually, I sent my sister a letter expressing my hurt but also wishing her well. I made it clear that I needed space to heal, but I hoped she would find the help she needed. I knew it was time to let go of the burden of their expectations and focus on building a life filled with positivity. With my boyfriend by my side, I started to envision a future that was free from the shadows of my past. I understood that family could be redefined and that I deserved happiness and peace. As I moved forward, I felt empowered to create my own narrative, one that centered on love, trust, and healing. In the end, I found strength in the bonds I chose to nurture and a deeper appreciation for the life I was building. I was ready for whatever came next, knowing I had the support I needed to thrive. Thanks for tuning in to today's Reddit story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories. See you next time.